All right, welcome back to Phrasing FM, a podcast where I talk about languages and my experience building an app to learn them. So I'm recording this episode in front of the sea today. So if you hear waves in the background, let me know if that's soothing or if that's annoying. I can record them inside, but I thought it might be some nice ambiance, and it's definitely some nice ambiance for me. So today I want to talk about something specific to phrasing, and it's a technique I call language contouring. And specifically, I want to talk about why it's good for advanced learners, or perhaps you've learned a language to an intermediate or advanced level, and you want to improve it, and you struggle to do so. You find a bunch of content, and that works great, but you want to do some serious study. And so you try textbooks and courses, but they're too basic. You try apps and you have to skip a bunch of levels, and then you end up missing a bunch of context, and you can never really find the right way to get started. Learning a language is a several-year-long process, and so almost every app, textbook, course, etc., you're going to graduate from at some point. And then you're a little bit lost because you can't get started in another application or book or something else because you haven't built up the foundations from there. And so I had this problem with French and Italian for many, many years. I wanted to improve them, but they were too good to improve with existing solutions, but not good enough to just talk with natives to improve them. And so I always really wanted to do something. I just wanted an activity that I could do that would improve it. I wanted an application that I could just open up and, no matter my level, start using it. And phrasing was designed with this in mind. It's designed for the advanced and intermediate learners first, and then it was expanded and made simpler and simpler until it works for beginner learners as well. But it was always designed with the intermediate and advanced learners first. And one of the ways that it does that is with our technique called language contouring. So as you add expressions to phrasing, we identify all the different words and the word families that you're adding. We'll then compare that to the general language corpus, and we'll try to figure out which words hold the most meaning in each one of your sentences across your entire library. So it's not just that we try to find the rarest words, and we'll show you those. And we definitely don't try to find the most common words and show you those. But there's that happy middle. There's those words that you'll hear definitely once or twice or 3 times a month that you're not going to get enough exposure to through input. But at the same time, you're going to hear them all the time, and you'll lose a lot of semantic weight. You'll lose a lot of meaning if you don't catch them, if you don't understand them. And these are the words that spaced repetition is amazing at. I mean, spaced repetition is amazing at every word equally, but for the really, really common words, you're going to hear those every single day. And eventually, you'll know those like the back of your hand. You don't really need any help. Spaced repetition also works for the really obscure words that you'll hear once every couple of years. But again, you're only going to hear those once every couple of years. And normally those really specific words are context specific enough that you can figure out from context if you don't understand them. So there's this big middle gap, and that's what phrasing tries to fill. And the really cool thing about this, or I should explain further, when you add these expressions, we find these words, and those are the ones that we teach you. So when you open up phrasing and you do reviews, you're going to find a bunch of these long middle words, as I would call them. You're not going to see the crazy rare ones as often, and you're not going to see the most basic ones as often. Of course, this is all based on probabilities and your performance, and it's very adaptive, so you will get some on either end as well. But for the most part, we're trying to teach you those long middle words. And this is really ideal for intermediate and advanced learners because you can open up phrasing and you're going to start learning the useful vocabulary right away. It's like phrasing already knows your level beforehand before you even put in any information. And that's not the case. Phrasing, if we choose these words, these are just the words that you are least likely to know, but most likely to need to learn. And for example, with my French, I recently bumped it up. I'm here in France for a couple weeks, and so I want to improve my French. And so I bumped up French to tier 1 language recently. All I did was I set the speed to be the highest out of anything in my library. I mean, it's on par with a couple other languages, but it's one of the highest languages. And I added a bunch of expressions. And now phrasing is going through and it's showing me all of these words that I want to learn. It's showing me substantially more words that I don't know than words that I do know, even though there's only a couple words I don't know in every expression. And so it really just feels like you can hit the ground running, whether you're intermediate or whether you're advanced, as soon as you start using the application, which is exactly where I want to be. There's another feature in phrasing as well, where anytime a review comes up, if one word is missing and you're asked to fill it in, but there are other words you don't know in the sentence, you can either manually increase the priority of those, and you'll see them when you see them, or you can grade them right away. So you can just say, I don't know this word, and you let phrasing know that, and then phrasing will start to show you that word in your reviews as well. So you can very quickly, first of all, phrasing will just mostly pick the right words. And then from there, if there are any that phrasing didn't pick, there are multiple ways that you can tell phrasing, these are the words I want to study. And by doing this, even if you speak a language to a high level, even if you speak it to an intermediate level, you're really focusing on what you need to be studying. And you're really focusing on leveraging spaced repetition as much as possible. You're getting the most bang for your buck. You're going to make the most progress. And you're going to really optimize your time spent with a spaced repetition system. Because phrasing is great. I love it. It's very addicting. But it's still a spaced repetition system. You're not going to have the time of your life using it. You want to go out there and you want to talk and you want to do those things. And yes, you want some study time when you have that intellectual study time in your day. But you want to get, ideally, we should be able to minimize this. Now, I don't think we will be able to. This is just such an effective way to learn a language that the more we can maximize it, the better. But there's a little bit of tension going on there. And so this sounds great for intermediate and advanced learners, but how does it work for beginner learners? What happens when you jump into a new language and the first word you learn is mediation? Why are you learning mediation as your first word in Turkish? This is actually incredibly helpful. And the reason being is every time I started to learn a new language after I'd learned a couple, you always start with the basics. I am, she is, he is, go to, at the store. And you're focusing on prepositions, subjects, basic conjugations of verbs. Maybe you start with the present tense and then you learn the past tense and you're learning all of these rules. And it's very, especially if you're doing it from like a textbook or an app, then it feels very overwhelming. But these words, you're going to spend so much time studying them in the beginning to get all the conjugations correct and to map them out and to remember them and to not mix them up. It takes a lot of effort to learn these in the beginning. And then 6 months later, if you keep up the habit, you're going to know these words like the back of your hand. They're just going to be immediate. You're not going to have to think about these in the slightest. I don't have to think I in French, so first person singular, second person would be tu, so first person is je. You don't go through that process. These are the words that you hear so much that they come out without you even thinking about it. And so the question is, why study them in the beginning then? Why are you putting in all this time and effort and stress to ingrain these words into your head that you are going to hear hundreds of times a day, dozens of times per minute in any video that you see? And so in phrasing, when you're doing reviews, every single word is explained. Every single word has translations, pronunciation, idiomatic interpretations, morphological analysis, etymology, breakdowns, affixes, agglutination, character analysis, cases, you name it. We explain it in every single word. And so a much better way to go about this is to focus on these more semantically powerful words, these words that will help you understand what the sentence is saying. And then if you don't know these words like an and to and on and the and I and am, then you just tap on them and you see them. And these are going to come up so many times in your expressions, and you might have to tap on them maybe a couple dozen times as you're learning, but that's going to be sufficient for you to understand it. If there's a full sentence with a bunch of complicated words and those filler glue words, the really basic words, and you learn all of the complicated words, you will just acquire the smaller words through enough exposure. And, maybe you're thinking that doesn't sound like enough. Another thing phrasing does, if you use the command mode, is the default review mode, is it will start to test you on multiple words at a time or whole phrases. And so when you start using phrasing, you're just going to see one word missing at a time. And you go through and you're learning these words, and it's going to be one word, one word, one word, one word, one word, until you kind of start to understand a word. Then we'll start to show you two words next to each other. And so you'll see 2 and 1, 1, 1, 2 and 1, 1, 1, 2 and 1, 1, 1. And then all of a sudden, we'll start to show you 3 words at a time and up to entire phrases. So you're really testing yourself on the full phrases. And when we do this, we do test you on these little words, the basic words, the function words, the prepositions, all of these little tiny words. We'll start to blur those out. And so you'll get tested on them. You'll see them at some point. So it does test your recall. It forces you to think about it. And at this point, if you don't already know them, you will learn them. These are so common and so easy that you'll pick them up no problem. So don't waste your time stressing and trying and putting in all this effort to pick up stuff that you will just naturally pick up on your own. Instead, from the beginning, start focusing on that long middle, those words that will really help you understand what's being said. Try to understand the meaning of the sentence and let the patterns and the structure and the grammar and the analysis come in after the fact. Because we're all naturals at language. If you can understand what I'm saying, you are a natural at language. Language is part of the human identity. And if you get exposed to it enough, especially in a manner where everything is clear, explained, explorable, then you're going to pick it up no problem. And so that's the language contouring technique. It kind of gets its name from, the contour of something. You want to map the edges of something. I want to figure out those anchor points around the language and kind of give you the shape of the item and let your brain do the rest to fill in the blanks. So the language contouring gives you the shape of all of these expressions. You learn the main meanings, the main beats in the song. And then all the chorus and melody and stuff, you're gonna pick those out because that's what your brain is attuned to do. So with this in mind, phrasing works fantastic if you're an advanced learner, if you're an intermediate learner, and if you're a beginning learner. If you give it a shot, then I think you'll find out that you enjoy it. And if you are an intermediate or advanced learner and you've been struggling to find a solution that will work at your level and you want to improve it and you want to do dedicated study, then Phrasing is the app for you. So thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope the C was not too much of a nuisance, and I will catch you in the next one. Ciao.